The only reason you should be on Vlad's show, knowing that anything you say could potentially lead you to spending the rest of your life in prison, especially if you're in your 60s, is if you miss taking showers with your buddies in the penitentiary, so you like in a hurry to go back to them, and there's nothing in the free world that's willing to send you back, so you just go on the show and just talk about unsolved 27-year murders, and you incriminate yourself and you go back to prison. Because I do not see why Keefe D, the man that was arrested for the 1996 murder of Tupac, was going on this I want to spend the rest of my life in prison tour, from this show to that show, recurring guest on Vlad TV. I don't see why he was doing all that, except he had a death wish. But before I go on, hit the like button, subscribe. Do not forget to comment and hit the notification bell so you can get notified whenever I drop content. Before I go on and tell you what I think about this whole scenario, because it is getting crazy. The streets are saying probably Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, might get incriminated himself. So I'm just gonna play y'all a few clips so you can familiarize yourself with this whole scenario, because this whole thing is crazy. And when the clips are done, I'm gonna come back and we can all discuss this together, and I'll tell you what I think.
The arrest of 60-year-old Dwayne Keith Davis, aka Keefe D, for the murder of Tupac Shakur. Davis was arrested this morning by my LVMPD criminal apprehension team, and this investigation started on the night of September 7th, 1996. It is far from over. It has taken countless hours, really decades, of work by the men and women of our homicide section to get to where we are today. Several of those detectives that are standing here with us include Detective Cliff Mogg, the lead detective on this case. He is now retired. While I know there's been many people who did not believe that the murder of Tupac Shakur was important to this police department, I'm here to tell you that was simply not the case. It was not the case back then, and it is not the case today. Our goal at LVMPD has always been to hold those accountable and responsible for Tupac's violent murder accountable. Just like we do for every homicide victim in our city. Every single victim, every life that is lost is important and remains a priority to this police department. As we methodically built this case to move forward with an arrest, it was also important that at the same time, we're building towards a successful prosecution. We work closely with our esteemed district attorney, Steve Wolfson, in his office to ensure that is going to happen. Mr. Davis's own words reinvigorated our case in 2018. I'm going to give you some of those details, and I'm going to introduce to you our homicide lieutenant, Jason Johansson, and he will provide you many of the details on how we got here today. Lieutenant.
Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you, everybody, for being here today. My name is Jason Johansson, and I'm the homicide lieutenant with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And my goal here today is to walk you through our investigation and what led us to the indictment of Dwayne Davis, also known as Keefe D, for the murder of Tupac Shakur. This case has been reviewed by our homicide team and homicide detectives for over 2.5 decades. And ultimately, our persistence in this investigation has paid off. Let me walk you through a timeline of events that as we know them right now. Prior to September 7th of 1996, as we all know, Tupac Shakur was an artist who was signed with Death Row Records. And that Death Row Records and its CEO, Marion Suge Knight, were closely affiliated with the Mob Piru criminal street gangs, and that they had an ongoing feud with the Southside Compton Crips. Dwayne Davis was the leader and shot caller of the Southside Compton Crips. And both of these gangs operated out of the Southern California area of Compton. On the night of September 7th of 1996, Tupac Shakur, along with Suge Knight and members of their entourage, which include members of Mob Piru, came to Vegas to attend the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Members of the Southside Compton Crips, which included Dwayne Davis, along with his nephew Orlando Anderson, were also in attendance at the same event. As both were leaving the fight, members of Death Row Records spotted Orlando Anderson near an elevator bank inside the MGM. At that time, they began to kick and punch him near that elevator bank. I will now show you hotel security footage, as many of you have already seen, related to the incident. And on this incident, you will see Tupac Shakur, who's wearing a shiny satiny shirt, with Marion Suge Knight, who's a large man in a brown suit, punching and kicking Orlando Anderson. Lower your phone. Following this incident, you'll see hotel security intervene, and then they will leave the area of the fight. Little did anyone know that it is this incident right here that would ultimately lead to the retaliatory shooting and death of Tupac Shakur. Following this incident, Tupac and Suge Knight both left the MGM to make their way to a post-fight party, which was to occur at a local nightclub. At the same time, word had spread amongst members of the Southside Compton Crips of what had occurred inside the MGM. And then that's when Dwayne Davis began to devise a plan to obtain a firearm and retaliate against Suge Knight and Mr. Shakur for what occurred inside the hotel against Mr. Anderson. After Davis obtained a gun, he entered into a white Cadillac along with Terrence Brown, DeAndre Smith, and Orlando Anderson. Based on our investigation, this is where we know they were seated. At some point in time, as they were in the white Cadillac, Mr. Davis took the gun that he had obtained and provided it to the passengers in the rear seat of the vehicle. As they were driving west on Flamingo Road near Koval, they had located the black BMW, which was driven by Suge Knight, and in the passenger seat was Tupac Shakur. And as they turned around, they pulled up near the passenger side of that vehicle and immediately began shooting at Mr. Knight and Mr. Shakur. Following that shooting, the white Cadillac fled the area southbound on Koval. And after our officers arrived on scene, Tupac was later transported to the University Medical Center, where he was treated medically and died approximately 6 days later on September 13th. My homicide section handled this investigation from its onset and for a short amount of time. And within a short amount of time, what we knew was that we were working a gang investigation where our victims, our witnesses, and our suspects were all from Southern California and not local to Las Vegas. Within the first few months of the investigation, our detectives knew most of the information I just briefed you on. However, we never had the necessary evidence to bring this case forward and present it for criminal charges. As time went on, this case had been reviewed multiple times by different investigators assigned to my section, but it wasn't until 2018 that this case was reinvigorated as additional information came to light related to this homicide. Specifically, Dwayne Davis's own admissions to his involvement in this homicide investigation that he provided to numerous different media outlets. In our section, we knew at this time that this was likely our last time to take a run at this case to successfully solve this case and bring forth a criminal charge. It was at that time.
So, in the absence of concrete and irrefutable evidence garnered from the raid of his house by the Nevada police, what is KeefeD's defense gonna be? Okay, he could always say he was just blabbing at the mouth and seeking notoriety and he was just exaggerating. That's true. Again, like I said, that is in the absence of concrete, solid evidence. So let's say all they have is circumstantial evidence and they're trying to piece things together. But if they have concrete evidence linking them to the murder of Tupac, that man is halfway to 100 years old. He has no choice. He's squealed before, he's cooperated before, so it's not going to be anything new. And if I was Diddy, I'd be worried, because he's mentioned in the past that Diddy, or he's insinuated that Diddy offered him $1 million to take Pac out. So if I was Diddy, I'd be kind of worried, even if his allegations were not true or his insinuations were not true. Why? Because you do not want your name tarnished, especially a mogul like Diddy, who managed to rebrand himself after the 99 shooting involving himself, Shine, and the guy that later died, Big Scar, when he was dating J-Lo. So he's managed to remodel himself and make himself look like a model citizen. He dropped all the gangster acts. So almost a decade and a half later, to now be faced with something as serious as this, I don't think that would be good for his image at all. So yeah, I'd be worried. You know, this could be a nuisance. Diddy needs to just put aside some money right now, because he's going to need it. I can predict that now, because KeeFeD is not going down. Oh, and you know Sugar's on the phone with the DA right now trying to come home. You know, so this is going to be messy. This is going to be long drawn, and this is going to be crazy. I can see, we got entertainment for next summer already lined up. In any event, let me just leave right now. That's all I got today. Hit the like button, subscribe. Do not forget to comment. Peace. Take care of yourselves. I'm out.